What is up, humans of the cardboard? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we're taking a look at weather painters. Okay, I think I built this deck very recently on the channel. Go ahead and check out that deck profile if you want. I think it's about as good as weather painters can be right now, or something similar to it. Obviously tech choices can always be messed around with there, but I think that it's cool. It's always had a very unique play style to it, and I feel like Konami's kind of let us down in the support department for this deck. So hopefully we'll see some good stuff come in the nearest future. It's definitely one of the decks that I would put in like that top 10 category for me personally on like decks I'd love to see get like good support. But anyway, real quick, we're going to run through the cards that the archetype already has, and then we're going to talk about what the deck's missing and what I think it could really use in new support should it end up getting that. So let's get into it. Starting off with the monsters. If you don't know how this archetype works, all of the monsters have the same second effect, where if they're ever banished to activate a weather card's effect, then on the next standby phase, they will trigger to special summon themselves back from the banished zone. Really cool. A lot of the card effects are quick effects that banishes cost, and then the monster returns. Your monsters just come back, which is really good because it means you always just have like follow up in the form of just like bodies coming back to the field. Which is really nice. So, of course, you have Snow. She's your best starter. When she's normal, she places any weather spell or trap from the deck into the spell and trap zone. Really good. Can't be ashed. Best starter. Next up, we have Thundery. Also, the stats are pretty good on these. 2200 defense. Pretty decent wall. And then this thing's 17 for a level 3. Not too shabby. But he can send a continuous spell or trap to the grave to then put another canvas on the field. Really good. Again, not ashable. He's better after turn 1, whereas Snow is the best one turn 1. But both are really good. Those are your best starters for the monsters. Then you have Cloud. He's a really good recursion one. If any weather card is sent to your graveyard while he's on the field, he can target up to 2 weather canvases in grave and put him back in your spell and trap zone. So that's really good. It punishes your opponent for outing your stuff. It's really good. Sun. This one's definitely not great, but it's okay. If he's in grave, and you can send a continuous spell or trap to the graveyard to summon himself back, but you have to already have a canvas in hand to activate from hand. It's a really weird effect. I hate that it needs to rely on you having a canvas already in hand, because if this was just trading a body for a continuous spell or trap, this card would be so much nicer and so much more convenient to take advantage of his extendability here. So yeah, it is what it is. Rain, this card's poop. We're not going to talk about that. Aurora, when she's normal summoned, she does the same thing that Snow does, but you're not really going to be doing that too much because we don't want to tribute summon a level 6. But on field, she keeps any canvas from being targeted or destroyed by card effects. Pretty good protection for a deck that's based on the back row. Then you have the canvases. You have Weather Painter, Snowy Canvas, Weather Snowy Canvas. This is your search card, and this is the other weird part of the archetype on how it works. All the canvases have the same like kind of clause where they give the effect on their text to the monsters that are in their corresponding zones. So if Weather Snowy Canvas is here, like in the middle zone, it'll give its effect to every Weather Painter that is in the zone exactly above it, as well as to the left and to the right of that zone. So it's kind of like that T formation, and all of them do that depending on where they're lined up in the spell and trap zone. Anyway, this is a quick effect. Banish your Weather Painter to add any weather card from deck to hand. Really good. You can't add cards from your deck to your hand except by drawing them after this, but you can just search stuff before you do this, which is not a big deal. Just got to sequence everything right. Sunny Canvas, this card stinks. Rainy Canvas, this card pretty much stinks, but it could be okay in certain matchups. It lets you quick effect banish a Weather Painter to target any spell or trap your opponent controls and bounce it. Obviously bouncing back row is not the best because they get to keep the resource, but it does slow down certain back row decks, so it's not the worst thing in the world. Maybe a one of, maybe even a one of in the side deck, honestly, just for those kinds of matchups to slow down that back row. Then you get to the traps. You have Rainbowed Canvas. This is the only card here that is, I believe, that wasn't in the initial release for this archetype, but it's pretty decent. If your opponent controls a monster, they just need to have something, you can banish a Weather Painter, quick effect by the way, to then summon any Weather Painter straight from the deck. You can't summon from the main deck for the rest of the turn, but again, that's just the rest of the turn. Still pretty good. It helps you cheat out stuff like the Aurora or Cloud as a quick effect to like protect your stuff from being like wiped back row wise. It's pretty nice. Then you have Thundery Canvas. This is the deck's only real form of removal. At the start of the damage step, if any Weather Painter battles an opponent's monster, banish the Weather Painter to non-targeting bounce the opponent's monster. Not the worst form of removal in the world. That's why I think even if we got better quick removal in the deck, I still think this card would probably be a one of, just because it's a Dragoon out, it's a Utopia out, right? Like it outs all those big cards that can't be targeted or destroyed, and that has some value to it for sure. And then of course you have Aurora Canvas, the last canvas we have to talk about. It's like a bad Trickstar Reincarnation. That's really all you need to know about it. And the last card is our boss monster that is way too hard to set up fully, and that's why the deck, it's one of the main flaws of the deck. This card needs 3 different Weather Painters, and it doesn't really do much unless you can put Weather Painters underneath of it. So this card, kind of like how the canvases work, says that all the monsters that it points to below, right, like boom, 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 they gain the effect that when any card or effect is activated, you can banish them to negate and destroy that card. So they all become Omni Negates. That's insanely powerful. The problem is the deck takes like 4 turns just to make this card with maybe 1 Weather Painter, like underneath of it. That's so awful. That takes so long, and it's just not worth it at the end of the day. As far as its other effects though, it has the same effect where if it somehow is banished, it can come back, although usually you're summoning this in the extra monster zone, so it wouldn't be in any banishable zones, so that's kind of awkward. As well as it can, if your opponent would special summon a monster, you can send this Link Summon card to the graveyard to negate the summon. That's fine. It's kind of like a fail-safe. Even if you make this and your opponent's able to bait out all the negates, it is still a pretty powerful interruption, but this card just takes way too many bodies on field and still need 1 or 2 cards underneath of it for it to ever be worth, and that's just too much to ask, to be honest. So yeah, this card kind of misses the mark for me right now based on where all the rest of the cards are. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at what I think the deck really needs. I think the biggest thing that I notice here is the deck has no interruption aside from her, and I just explained to you how long it takes this deck to make her. So I think the #1 thing I would like to see is a new canvas. Spell or trap really doesn't matter. I guess I prefer a spell because it means if you hard draw it, you can just activate it into a board and then normal summon like a Weather Painter and then have it immediately be live, which is kind of cool. It makes the deck able to play going second a little bit better, or a little faster at least. But it's not the end of the world if it's a trap. But it needs to be anything. Like, I'm not kidding. It could be anything. Whether it's quick removal or negation, I do not care. Whether it's when a card effect is activated, banish a Weather Painter as cost, and then negate that effect. If you want to, make it destroy it, and that's like probably would make it as good as it could possibly be. But if you don't want to go that far, I get it. Let's just say negates, but it doesn't destroy. Or maybe it only negates monster effects, but not spells and traps. Maybe it's a target a monster on the field and negates effects, right? That's like the weakest form of negation, but it's still something. The deck cannot set up anything. You just like can't turn 1. You have to hard draw hand traps, you have to hard draw like floodgates and traps, and if you don't, you literally cannot end up on interruption. The deck has a great resource gain, but when you can't stop your opponent from going off, every deck in the game right now is just gonna like outpace you. No matter how good you are, your opponent's gonna outpace you while removing all your shit from the field. They're gonna make their access codes and pop all your canvases, so you don't have anything going into your next turn, except for bodies coming back, but without canvases, those bodies don't really mean much. So I think the first thing we need is definitely just a canvas that's an interruption. And also the other thing is it could be is just, like I said, quick removal. It could be target a card on the field and destroy it after banishing a Weather Painter. That would be the weakest form of quick removal, but I will take it. A Dryden card, but it's like recurable. It's every single turn, right? You get your Weather Painters back, and now you can do it again. Dryden. And that's why you only need 1 that's like decent, because the deck can just do it every turn. As long as you can prolong the duel, like hold your opponent off for a turn, and you get those resources back, you set it up again, and it just makes it really hard for your opponent to out-resource. So we just need something there. Something at all. And I think the deck really takes a huge step, because then Snow gets it set up turn 1 as a 1-card starter. Snowy Canvas with any normal summonable Weather Painter gets it started, or Thundery with any continuous spell gets it started. So I think that would be the best thing. That would be my personal favorite thing, that if we could get any one thing for the deck, that's what I would want. But there are some other things as well. I think if Konami wanted to go one of two routes, I think they could go a route where maybe they say, hey, here's a Link 1 or a Link 2. And I'd be okay with either, because if it's a Link 1, it's probably going to be too broken, but it needs to be something that helps us Link climb into the rainbow much faster. Like, what if it's a Link 1 that says, like, when this card is special summoned, you can, like, Link summoned, you can reborn a Weather Painter from grave. So the Weather Painter you just used for it would just come back. Boom, you're getting 2 bodies for the price of 1. And that's really solid. Maybe it would have another effect where we can move its column, right? So that it could move itself to a column of a Weather Painter or our canvas to then be fodder for that. I think that would be really nice, because that would just expedite our ability to churn out Rainbow just ever so slightly more. That's just one more body a turn, and that could be the difference, right? So that's something I would love to see. I think that would be really clean. It would just make Rainbow so much easier to make. Or maybe you make a Link 2 and make what it does a little bit more powerful, right? Like maybe it summons a Weather Painter from deck. Or, you know what I mean? And then, but the problem is this card needs 3 Weather Painter monsters, so I don't know if the Link 2 really makes full sense. If it took 2 or more Weather Painters, then we'd be in there, but it's why the Link 1 makes more sense. If they don't want to go that route, though, they could also do a new main deck monster that says, like, when this card is normal or special summoned, you can reborn a Weather Painter from grave, or, you know what I mean? Like, get to another body. Summon a Weather Painter token. I don't care if they want to go that route, right? Just to get that extra Weather Painter body on the field and give us more resources to play around with, to climb up into Rainbow much faster. Because, I'll be honest, like, Rainbow's just too hard to make, and we just can't get to it early enough. So I think those are probably the biggest things I'd want to see, is any interruption, like canvas card, and then whether it's main deck, whether it's extra deck, whether it's Link 1, Link 2, main deck, I don't care, some way to just like put bodies on the field a little bit faster so we can climb up into the Rainbow just a little bit sooner. Just a little bit sooner. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts down below on this deck. What do you want to see? If you could get, let's keep it realistic. Let's say 3 or less cards for the Weather Painters. What kind of cards would you want to see, and what would you want them to do to help the archetype out? Because it definitely needs help, but it's not far away. I do think the deck has a really solid core, a really interesting thing, because the fact that everything banishes for cost makes stuff like Torrential Tribute really crazy in the deck, and I'm looking at the deck in my hand. Banishes for cost makes Skill Drain playable in the deck. That's insane. Macro and D-Fisher and Dimension Shifter, all good in the deck because they don't really care about the graveyard at this moment in time all too much, right? So you can really take advantage of a lot of powerful stuff that other decks just can't right now, because everything's using the graveyard, everything's using the extra deck, which we don't really use also right now. So, you know, what is it? Prosperity as well as Extravagance, really nice. And yeah, so hopefully we see something good come soon, but let me know your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear those. But I'm gonna get the hell out of here. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more stuff from me down the line. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.